but I looked for it in the downloads here, and somehow they made a mistake when they downloaded it to this, that there's only half of the page. The Sikha is in Lukuti Sichas Yud Daled. Anyway, it's a beautiful story. Here's two nice stories, Tishrei. One is the importance of doing even a small good deed. And the other one is the damage that can be done by doing even one small bad deed. So the story is like this. Once upon a time, so there was a man, a rich man, and he had a next door neighbor. This rich man, so he had a next door neighbor. The next door neighbor had a son, and the next door neighbor wasn't too well off, and so he took this boy, the next door neighbor's son, and he gave him a job. He said, listen, I'm going now for a vacation, for a week vacation, and I have a boat, a little fishing boat, big enough for, 5-6 people, rowboat. And do me a favor, paint it. Go out and buy the paint and brushes and things like that. And I've been meaning to paint this boat for years, and I never really got around to it. So do me a favor, go and paint the boat, the places where it has to be sand it down. And I'll in the paint store, I already called them up. I told them to charge it to my account. You buy the brushes and everything, and then I'll pay you for the work. So he goes, the man goes on his vacation. When he's in his vacation, he decides he's going to extend his vacation. He's there for 2 weeks. Suddenly, near the end of the 2 weeks, he realizes that that boat that he told the boy to paint, that it has a hole in the bottom of it. Suddenly he remembers that that's the reason why it was sitting there for so long, because it wasn't just a matter of painting it. He had to fix it, and he didn't fix it. It would have taken a little bit of time. And his grandson is going to come to the house and go in that boat. It was not a large hole, but it was a large enough hole that, the boy would probably get out to the middle of the river, and then he wouldn't be able to come back. So he frantically called up this next door neighbor boy, and he didn't get it. This is before there were cellular phones. So he immediately rushed back home, and sure enough, there was his grandson in the middle of this lake in the boat, painted beautifully. His grandson, hi, Grandpa. And he told his grandson, please come back in as soon as possible. I guess he even came there with the police in order to save him. Or maybe he called the police first and he came, anyway, whatever the situation is, he came back there and he found that the boat was okay and there's no hole in the bottom of the boat. So he called the boy from next door. He said, I told you to paint the boat. He said, yeah, I painted it. Did I do a good job? He says, yes, but there was a hole. He said, oh, I fixed the hole also. He said, they fixed the hole. He says, yeah. He said, well, here's $20 for painting the boat. How long did it take you? It took me an hour and a half to paint the boat. He says, here's $20. He says, but thank you. You promised me $10 an hour. This is a tip. He says, that's what, and here's $500 for fixing the hole. What? He said, but the hole took me 10 minutes to fix. It was no big deal. It was not, seriously. I mean, it was an hour and a half to paint the whole boat, 10 minutes. He said, yeah, but that 10 minutes that you took, that was worth to me much, much more than the whole. You saved my grandson's life. So it comes to show that sometimes doing a good deed, a small good deed that you think is insignificant, can be much more significant than what you think is a big good deed. Story number one. Story number two. Once there was a rich man, maybe even the same rich man, and he bought a chandelier, tremendously expensive chandelier, worth $100,000. Beautiful. Thing was beautiful. And he had a big, huge house, and he had this chandelier put over his dining room table. It was imported, it had the finest glass, crystal glass, and when it was lit, it was just amazing just how it shined. How did he put it over his table? As he went about a very strong rope. The company did it, a very strong rope, and he attached this rope to the rope was strong enough, could hold something that weighed 10 times as much as this chandelier. And he attached it to a beam in the attic. They made a small hole in his roof, and it went through, and they covered over the hole, and it went. So it was one day there was going to be this big, the rich man was making this big party, a birthday party, I don't know, whatever. Hundreds of people were invited, stable, and a poor man came in, knocked on the door, and said, "Do you have any old clothes that I could take?" They said, "Yeah, we do. Go up in the attic. Up in the attic, there's a little light switch. Go up in the attic, and there's old clothes up in the attic. Gather them together and take them. They've been up for a long time. You'll do us a big favor if you get rid of these clothes." So the old man, the poor man goes up, and they forget totally about him, right? And then the people come, they're sitting around the table, and everyone's happy. And all of a sudden, from nowhere, the whole entire chandelier comes crashing down on the table. Amazingly, no one was hurt. And dishes and cups and the table breaks, and people are screaming and yelling. And in all the confusion, what happens is this poor man comes down with this big bag full of clothes, and he says to the people, "Thank you very much for the." They said, "Well, where'd you get that rope from that you tied the bag together?" He said, "Oh, I saw there was a rope that went from the ceiling down to the ground. It looked like it was extra, wasn't seem to be going anywhere. So I took out my pocket knife and I cut it. And it was really tight, and I cut it. So he didn't think he was doing anything bad. He did one little rope, no big deal. But that rope had a tremendously expensive repercussion. So it comes to show that sometimes you can do one bad thing, and that one bad thing can have results that are far out of proportion to the deed that was originally done. From this we learn, so it says in this book, The Complete Story of Tishrei. It's a Chabad book. I think the stories were written by Rabbi Nissim Mendel. Nissim Mendel, right? From here we see that how important it is to do a good deed, and how important it is to beware of doing damage. All right, my friends, those of you who come back, we'll learn at 3 o'clock. Anyone who wants to come at 3 o'clock, and we will begin to learn the law